Is morality objective or subjective? Many people will tell you that morality is objective. The argument is especially prevalent among those that believe in God. The argument goes something like this. If God exists, says something is morally wrong, this wouldn't be an opinion, any other answer would be wrong, this is an objective truth, versus a subjective truth, which is opinion-based, based on personal feelings or interpretations, an example being the best tasting ice cream. Let's break the issue down. Reality can be defined as the total aggregate of everything that is in existence in whatever form it may take. That leaves us with three scenarios we can apply morality to. There could be no conscious being anywhere in reality. 2, there could be one conscious being in all of reality. We can call that being God. Or 3, there could be 2 or more conscious beings in reality. No other scenarios are logically possible. Let's look at scenario 1. If we imagine reality is everything that's contained inside this box, and there's not a single conscious being anywhere in reality, there'd be no such thing as good and bad. Questions about morality would be meaningless because there'd be nothing to apply morality to. Morality wouldn't be able to exist, meaning morality would be neither objective or subjective. So the answer to scenario 1 would be morality would not exist. Let's look at scenario 2. If there is one conscious being in all of reality, we may call that being God. This being would define what morality is. Good and bad would be whatever God wants it to be. There would be only one standard of morality in existence. A counterposition would be impossible because there's no other conscious being around to counter it. In this case, morality would be objective. So the answer to scenario 2 is morality is objective. Now you're probably thinking, which of these 3 possible realities do we actually live in? The answer is scenario 3, and here's why. If God exists, the next question we ask is God the only conscious being in existence? The answer is no. The reason being is you can be 100% sure that your consciousness exists. How can you know this? Well, if you're watching this and thinking to yourself, am I conscious? The answer is yes, and you can be 100% certain of this conclusion. The reason being, it's logically impossible for a non-conscious being to ask, am I conscious? Thinking requires consciousness. So if you're able to ask yourself this, congratulations, you are a conscious being. So now logically, if you exist and God exists, and you've determined that you're not God, there necessarily are at least 2 separate conscious beings in existence. So let's look at scenario 3. The question now is, if God exists, and there's at least one other separate conscious being in existence, and God thinks X is wrong, that position is either objective or subjective. The answer is subjective. Here's why. Let's run scenario 3 out with 2 separate conscious beings in reality. God says X is wrong. Consciousness 2, or C2, says X is right. Is X wrong or right? How do we solve the stalemate? Now you could arbitrarily say that God's view on X is automatically objective. Many assert this. But as we all know, this argument would fail, because assertion without proper justification is useless. We need an actual solution. To this, there would be only one legitimate solution to this problem. You'd have to appeal to a standard, a metric about objective morality, then measure both statements against that morality metric. That leads us to the next question. Where would this metric come from? Well, if there are only 2 separate conscious beings in existence, the metric would have to come from a consciousness, in this case, either God or C2. Now, if they both create what they assert is the correct metric, now we're left with a brand new problem. Whose metric is correct? You'd need another tiebreaker. And where would this tiebreaker metric come from? Again, it'll have to come from a consciousness, in this case, either God or C2. Let's break the issue down even further. God says X is wrong. Consciousness 2 says X is right. Which is objective regarding X? what we have is a stalemate, and we need a tiebreaker to know if X is actually objectively good or bad. The tiebreaker would have to come from a consciousness in reality, in this case, God or C2. If they both create what they assert is the correct tiebreaker metric, what we have is another stalemate, and we need another tiebreaker. If they both create a tiebreaker metric for the tiebreaker, what we're left with is another stalemate, and we need another tiebreaker. Even if you add more conscious beings to the equation, we would still hit a stalemate and need a tiebreaker. This process would go on indefinitely. We need an infinite amount of tiebreakers, meaning neither side would be able to prove that their morality standard is objective. If neither side can prove their standard is objective, what we're left with is a subjective standard. Meaning even if God exists, if just one other conscious being exists in reality, morality would be subjective. Now, if you agreed or disagreed with this solution, please tell me why in the comment section below. Please also click the button to subscribe and follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And as always, thank you for watching.